But really ask yourself, why are we doing what we are doing? So I grew up in Port Harcourt. I packed my bags and I came to Lagos. That was for my internship in, I can't even remember, when was that? It's a long time ago. What year was that? 19, no, I'm not that old. It was in 2000, 2002, and I packed my bag, came to Lagos. I didn't have anywhere to stay. So I was staying with my auntie's friend who was staying in Ikorodu. And where I was doing my internship was in VI. So we'll wake up by 4 a.m., get in his car, and we'll drive to Ijolayemi in Victoria Island. And it took like 3 hours. And we'll always be stuck in traffic every day. No matter what we did, we would be moving really slow, and it'd take us 3 hours to go from Ikorodu to VI. We were moving in traffic. There was motion, but we were not making much progress. Luckily, we thank the Lord they fixed Third Mainland Bridge. The bridge is smooth now, and people can get to their destination faster. So sometimes, motion is not equal to progress. You can be doing a lot of things. You can be running around doing daily stand-ups. Everybody's showing up for daily stand-up. This is what I did yesterday. This is what I'm doing tomorrow. But you need to pause and think, are you actually making progress? And progress is in the why we are doing all these things we are doing. Is our products in our customers' hands? As Scrum Masters, you need to shift beyond just the process to begin to ask yourself and your team tough questions about why are we doing what we are doing? Are we actually making progress? I see teams sometimes, they carry work from iteration 1 or sprint 1 to sprint 2 to sprint 3. You're not getting any value by doing that. So at every point in time, finishing a sprint, we need to ask ourselves, what progress did we make? And how do we know this progress is creating value for somebody? You have to measure it. So beyond just focusing on the process, ask the team. The team should come together and ask themselves, what progress did we make? And how do we know we've made that progress? So progress is actually important. The other day I was in a training and I was asking the team, why do you do daily stand-ups? Because sometimes you get into the routine of, everybody, it's time for daily stand-up. Then everybody joins the call. Then the call is quiet. Then you call one person. The person says, this is what I did. This is what I'm doing today. This is what I'm doing tomorrow. It has become routine. But you're not really getting the value out of it. And I keep saying, if your team is waiting to daily stand up to tell you this is what I did yesterday, I'm stuck, I'm blocked, you've missed the mark, because the intent is not to come to a meeting and give updates as to where we are, but the intent is as a team, we have a goal. I'm stuck by 3 p.m. yesterday. I don't need to wait till daily stand up. So you need to look for those habits and behaviors in your team to make sure you're not stuck in the routine of the events of Scrum, but the habits and the behaviors your teams have, you can truly, truly see the why behind it. So a lot of us in Nigeria are used to situations where government comes and says, we're going to launch this project. They come with a ribbon, everybody is happy, they dig the ground, they call it ground-breaking ceremony. We are going to build, what are we going to build? We are going to build a borehole for this town. And we'll put a tank, and everybody will be happy. You don't need to go to the stream to fetch water anymore. But years pass. As they say these days, 3 years later. No, you're going to the opposite direction. 3 years later, this is what you have. And a lot of the things we do today, projects, I've been on projects that have been this way. I've been on teams where we said this is what we want to do. 3 years later, we're still struggling. You need to realize that you cannot get back time. The 3 years that you spent building something as a team member is frustrating if I don't get value out of it. For the business that has paid salaries for everybody on the team, the business misses out on the opportunity in the market. For the customer who you would have delighted doesn't get to see your product. So you need to ensure that as you're working with teams, spend time, ask yourself, how do you make sure we are getting value out of it? I say teams today deploy every day. which means something is going to production every day. Sometimes 10 times a day, sometimes 100 times a day. But sometimes in Nigeria, that conversation is very hard because they'll tell you, no, you cannot go to production. The operations people will say, no, you scatter it. But again, the essence of Agile and when Agile exists is to give you the opportunity to get those things done. It is what they say, we need to be safer. You can't go very fast if you haven't built the things in place to make sure that if somebody makes a change to code, it is checking and you don't have issues. Because if you don't have quality baked in, what would happen is you go fast, but you also be rolling back quicker. I don't know how people are going to survive with AI now because competition is way harder now. It means that everybody in this room can build anything. You come up with an idea, you launch it today, there's a copycat by tomorrow morning because they've seen your idea, they're able to build it quickly, they're able to test it quickly, and they may do it better than you. So it means that the playing field is so much more harder now. So I pity you guys that are just starting. Good luck. So sometimes you have executives who hear about Agile, they go for training. They are nice. There are some good executives that, let me go and learn. But by the time you come back home into your team, you realize that this thing is actually harder than it looks. Because what you're literally trying to do is get a few people to come together to work in a slightly different way than they are used to. So we need to ensure that we spend time building the team. I don't know who watched the last World Cup. Anybody here? People don't like football. Yeah. Anyway, I watched the last World Cup. And for me, football is a good reference point for Agile because you see a group of people come together to be able to win the World Cup or win the Premier League. And just watching the last World Cup with Brazil was with Messi. Messi is Brazil, Abi. What in Spain? Argentina. Just watching Messi, how that team carried themselves throughout the entire match for me was a good reference point for a fantastic team. That is what it is. And you miss out on when you get to a place where everybody is waking up every day in service of this problem we are trying to solve. You don't have to get anybody to say, join daily stand-up. You don't. Scrum Master goes on leave, and the team continues. It is not, oh, Scrum Master goes on leave. There's no daily stand-up for the 2 weeks the person is on leave for. Then when the person comes back, everywhere is scattered. Nobody can explain where we are. No, that's not it. You need to get to the point where everybody on the team knows why we wake up every day. If I'm stuck, I'm the person to speak up first. I'm not waiting for daily stand-up. That's the energy you need in the room to be able to get the right of values out of Scrum that you have. Yeah, in the spirit. So most times we focus on the wedding, but we forget the marriage. So we focus a lot on the activities. We need to do daily stand-up. We need to do retrospective. We need to do X, Y, Z. But we never ask ourselves the wedding. What happens after the wedding? It's the marriage. You need to ask yourself, the product we've built, is somebody else's life better? Is the customer better? Is the team happier? I tell people work needs to be fun. I cannot spend 5 days a week out of 7 in an environment and I'm not having fun. It's not going to work for me because it's my lifetime I'm spending in that environment. So we need to figure out how do we get work to the point where it is fun for the customer. So what does sooner mean? So sometimes people think sooner is let's go faster. The sooner is how do you get this product into the customer's hand to be able to get feedback. Because if you can sit down here, have an idea in your head, this is a problem to solve, you can go and build it, but by the time you put it in the customer's hands, it's 6 months later, then the customer tells you, well, you know, it's not quite what I need, but you spent 6 months. So sooner means is if you have an idea, you have a problem, how do we get a slice of this problem that we've solved for a customer to get real feedback from the customer? I was watching a video on YouTube the other day, and the guy said he built a company for 7 years, millions of dollars gone down the drain, and after 7 years, he had to shut down. But he started up again, and the lesson he learned was that for him, he said the first thing he does now before building anything is try to market and sell the product to see if there's anybody that's going to actually pay for it before he even builds it. Because sometimes people will tell you, yes, I agree, it's a good idea. By the time you build it, nothing happens. So again, those are some of the things we need to worry about when it comes to sooner. So this is Mama Chidima. For some of us that grew up in the streets, you see me now, I'm yellow, it's the Lord's doing. But for some of us who grew up on the streets, there was this buka that you always went to go and eat jollof rice. Then for those ones that like egg and pomo, is there. A lot of times, these people who are in these situations know their customers. As you walk in, she already knows, princess, how are you? Before I even sit down, the food has showed up. Because she understands that it's important to focus on the customer. Every product, again, digital product you're building, if it's an FMCG product, it's still for a customer. How do you ensure, as our keynote speaker said earlier, they put the plastic on the cover? I think I remember seeing that growing up too. And I didn't understand why you gave me plastic. Because what will happen now, the milk will pour out faster, and the milk will finish fast. And you didn't want that. So again, you need to build for the customer and make sure we understand the customer. Sooner means we need to reduce the time between a problem existing and that problem being solved for a particular customer. Safer. So I used to be a QA before. I'm still a QA at heart. And my job was to find the bugs in the application. And I used to suffer. Anytime I think now, I'm like, I've suffered, Sha. But how do you create a situation where it is safer to take smart risks within your product team? Because you don't want to be saying no, no, no. For people like us that work in fintech, that one mistake can lose billions. There's a short story I'll say here. There was a day a developer made a change. I tested it. Everything was okay. Then before we went live, the developer went to go and change something, and he didn't tell me. But as God will have it, God said, this my child will not suffer. The developer, we went to production, it was night. I was like, this thing's not working, this thing's not working. Apparently, this was maybe like 2010. The developer changed the script and forgot to put the where clause. So what that meant was that, and it was a payment application that is used to pay salaries. What that meant was that it was going to pick a transaction from 10 years earlier and try to resend it. But as God will have it, he said, this girl's head is strong. We're not allowed to suffer. So you need to figure out how, as a team, you make sure you have the right things in place. Ravi talked about shifting testing left. A lot of times, people take it as theory, but the reality is that you need to shift testing left. It means that on day one, when the team is talking about, these are the user stories we are working on, the tester and everybody is in the team talking about, this is how we are going to test it. What you see most times, the tester is just there sitting down, then 8 days in, that's when tester is now saying, this is how I'm going to test. You need to shift testing left so that you can make safer decisions. I like suya. Growing up, my mom used to take me to buy suya. I grew up in Port Harcourt, went on a bus, traveled down to the other end of town to buy ram suya, so I love meat. So imagine if you went to your favorite suya spot and one customer just told the malam, say, guy, if you put ground crayfish into your suya pepper, it's really nice, try it. Then the malam wakes up the next day, he's like, that's true, let me try it. He now packs his entire batch of suya pepper and mixes crayfishes inside it. But forgets that Blessing may be allergic to crayfish. What will happen will be a big disaster because he didn't try it. What he can do to make it safer is to create a small batch and then test with a few customers. Those are the kinds of things teams need to be able to do. It's not just, oh, let's go and let's move. No, you need to create opportunities to test what you have built to see how it's working in small batches. So, and you know, safer is not just about the team. They talk about psychological safety. I was in an argument with somebody, and he said, you know, as the MD, psychological safety for me is that we are making money. It wasn't about whether the team was safe to speak up. But safety for the team, are your teams able to have real conversations? Most times the answer is no, because we are too focused on the work, not on the individual. Everybody is a human being that wakes up and comes to work every day. So how do you get to know people in your team? And how do you create an environment that is safe for the team to have conversations? Those are the things that make teams tick. You can't just throw Scrum in and think that everybody will arrange themselves. It's human beings we are talking about. So we need to get people together to be able to deliver. Happier. Happier is in many dimensions. You have from the customer perspective, a remittance app. Today I did a transfer. My money is gone. I had to do it a second time. And they told me, oh, madam, it'll take you 48 hours. Wait, the money will come back tomorrow. I'm not happy as a customer. So again, happier is from the customer's perspective. What things can we build into our application to make the customer happier? From the team perspective, please, work should be fun. You can't just be coming every day, how far. What have we built? When are we going live? This is the next one we need to do. No, work needs to be fun. And lastly, in summary for me, is don't just be busy, be purposeful, use your time well. You can't get your time back. I finished school early. I blinked. This is 18 years later, and I'm confused how. So use your time well, doing meaningful work. Don't just do Scrum, deliver value. I think for me, the thing that has helped me the most is being able to see all the time I put into something and the value that came out of it. A lot of people I've worked with, most times that is their story, is that we were able to create something and we were able to see the value we created. That is what it's all about. So spend your time creating value. And don't just run ceremonies, focus on outcomes. Thank you.
My question is, so as a Scrum Master, you have the understanding, you're trying to push the values and everything, but in an organization where even if the top management have, we know Scrum, we know agility, but they still always impede in the decisions you're making, which thereby affects the whole value you're delivering at the end of the day. What would you advise such Scrum Master to do?
Kavya, don't be like me. I'm troublesome. So what I always do is I agree with you, Oga. It's not an issue. I'll collect it. I will do it, but I'll still do my own together. Because if things scatter and what you said we should do doesn't work, we still have a fallback on what will work. So that's the way I manage it. But don't tell your Oga, no, you will enter trouble. You enter trouble. Just say, okay, collect it then, sit with your team, engage yourselves and say, how can we pull both of these things off at the same time? You'll be shocked what to come out of it. But you have to have a great team behind you. And you have to build that trust with the team. If you don't have that trust, that's not going to happen for you. Yeah. Thank you. One last.